Welcome to Ask the Experts. I'm Jill Schlesinger, editor-at-large of CBSMoneyWatch.com, and I am joined by, really there's only one expert in this room, let me be clear, Adam Levin. You are the expert.
No, you are the expert.
No, you. You. Okay, let me just do, Adam's been with us before, but we promised to bring him back before the holidays because he has so much amazing advice and I would say cautionary tales about identity theft. And we're coming into the holiday season and people are whipping out the credit cards and the debit cards. So we want to talk a little bit about that. First, let me do your bio, which is, as always, quite fascinating.
Thanks.
You know, the former director of the New Jersey Division of Consumer Affairs. So he's like a politician, but he escaped. It's okay. He's chairman and co-founder of Credit.com and Identity Theft 911 and a nationally recognized expert in credit and identity theft. All right. If that alone would have been sufficient. Through his regulatory experience, Mr. Levin realized the lack of reliable and accurate credit information available to consumers at that time. In response to the demand, Adam created Credit.com as a resource and online marketplace for solutions that help enable consumers to actively manage their credit finances. So, Adam, we were talking about this before the show, and we were talking about management of your credit. And what was the analogy you used? Because I loved it. What is the analogy of managing your credit?
Well, when you say the word portfolio to most people, the Pavlovian response is investments. But most people don't think of the fact that you have two other equally critical portfolios, if not more. But the two that come to mind are your credit portfolio and your identity portfolio. And just as you would hope that someone who was a professional was managing your investment portfolios, you have to be the professional manager of your credit and identity portfolios, because there really isn't anybody else that will or can, because nobody knows more about you than you do. And again, it doesn't matter how many laws there are, how vigorously those laws are enforced. The ultimate guardian of the consumer has been, is, and will always be the consumer.
Yeah. And so that's a great analogy, though, because it puts the control back in our hands. And there are ways to control this. I mean, it feels pretty scary. And identity theft is still the fastest growing white-collar crime, isn't it, out there?
It's pretty much the fastest growing crime out there.
How worried does everyone need to be about this, for real?
No, I think you do. I mean, I had a conversation not so long ago with somebody who said, this is a fear-driven industry, and when are you guys going to stop driving fear? And I said, well, let's look at this calmly. Somewhere between 10 and 15 million people every year are going to become victims, have been and continue to be, victims of some form of identity theft.
10 to 15 million?
10 to 15 million. And the reality is the number is probably higher because so many forms of identity theft are not properly reported or aren't reported at all. For instance, a significant percentage of identity theft is committed by friends and family members, and there are a lot of people who will not rat out a friend or a family member.
Wow, I had no idea.
No, it is. It's a significant number. In addition to which, with child identity theft, it could be years before you find out that you're a victim. With synthetic identity theft, you may never find out.
Hold on. What is synthetic identity theft?
Synthetic identity theft is if someone takes your name and address and my social security number and Roland's birth date and squishes them together and creates essentially the bionic person. Now, sometime over time, the trail of breadcrumbs will lead back to the social security number, and maybe through a background check, it might lead through a name match to one of the parties. The birth date isn't terribly relevant as to one person because millions of people have the same birthday.
Right.
But this is the fastest growing segment of identity theft.
I think this is actually a question that we got from Randy in New York. If you've got a question, shoot us an email at asktheexperts@moneywatch.com or go to moneywatch.com and join our live chat. So here's the question. Randy says he's heard about this idea of having multiple people under a single social security number, sometimes as many as 50 different names. Maybe some of them are illegals or made up or whatever. Randy wants to know, how can I find out how many people are using my social security number? And he says, I understand Experian offers a social search product that gives the 10 best names for a social security number, but only sells it to commercial entities. So is that synthetic? Like where it's just a bunch of different people under the same social security number?
Yeah, because normally it would be somebody else's name.
Right.
And generally somebody else's address, because the last thing they want is any of their mail or information going to you and your social security number. There's no limit to the amount of people that could end up with your Social Security number because they've stolen it. The Social Security Administration, in almost no circumstances, changes the Social Security number. And I've had instances where someone had a Social Security number, then by mistake it was issued to a second person, and somehow in the midst of a debate with the Social Security Administration, it came back to the first person. They had to get the consent of the second person in order to work it out.
Aye.
It's a very complicated, totally crazy process. But the one thing that's very unique to us in our universe of identifiers is the Social Security number. Names can change, addresses can change, birth dates can be shared by millions of people, but theoretically, there is only supposed to be one Social Security number per person. And the problem is that we as a nation have become so addicted to Social Security numbers that in the old days, the only people that really had an interest or should have had an interest in your Social Security number is the Social Security Administration and the Internal Revenue Service and your state taxing authority. Beyond that, that should have been it. But suddenly there was this tsunami of organizations that decided to use the Social Security number as the identifier.
And should you not do that? I mean, if you have a choice, but it doesn't seem like there's really a choice. I mean, even in my, in your health insurance, often that's, your Social Security number. You give it out all the time on the phone when they say there's a representative. Should you not do that?
Well, if you're controlling the situation, in other words, if somebody calls you on the phone and says, hey, Jill, example, is this your credit card number? And they read your card number. You go, yeah. And they go, and this is your expiration date, right? And you go, yes. And they go, do us a favor, because we're your bank. Just flip it over and read us that 3-digit code on the back.
Oh.
And you go, wait a minute.
Why?
You're my bank. You called me. Why should I tell you? What you do then is flip the card over, look at the phone number, call it, speak to customer service, ask to speak to the security department. You should never be giving your Social Security number out to anybody that calls you on the phone and asks you to confirm you're you by giving them your Social Security number.
And people must do that all the time.
Often. And, it goes back to when you were a child. What did your parents tell you? Almost rule number one, never speak to strangers.
Right.
And yet, in the society we live in, whether it's online, in person, or on the phone, people can't seem to help themselves. They just give out information because there are very clever people who are doing nothing but sucking this information out of unwitting people.
And so that seems like a sort of an obvious thing, right? Don't give this information out. What are the less obvious things? I mean, we are entering the holiday season, and here on credit.com, you do have a nice a column, a blog here about holiday tips for online shoppers. And I'm just wondering, there's tons of stuff here, but what do you think are some of the less obvious things that we do that we should watch out for during the holidays?
Well, the first step is your credit and your identity is an asset. That too many people look at credit and they think of it as crime and punishment. And so it's a bad thing. Whereas the truth is, it's a great thing. And it can be a wealth builder, and it can really give you a solid foundation in terms of finances, because remember, every dollar you're not paying for a dollar is a dollar available to invest or to buy whatever it is you want to make
right.
your
Credit
quality
is
of life
not
better.
this is not a terrible thing. I mean, look, the capitalism runs on credit to some extent. You borrow money, you do better things with it. The U.S. government is, I think I just read, by the way, that the last time we were debt-free was under Andrew Jackson. It doesn't work that
I was
well.
there.
Yeah, I thought I saw you there, too. He said, what is interesting is that it isn't only a bad thing. It can be a constructive thing, but it has to be used correctly, right?
No, absolutely. And as a side note, we happen to have a really cool thing at credit.com, which is called the Credit Report Card. And it's absolutely, positively free. And you go, it draws information from your TransUnion report, and it grades you. And then it tells you what you did right, what you did wrong, what you need to do better. And then it shows you where you sit across a band of the 5 credit scoring systems that are out there FICO being the best known, and then some of the lesser known ones, just so you kind of get a feel for it. And it's all about being armed when you go out into the marketplace, now when you're looking for a job. And that's why it's so critically important to be aware. And as we were talking about earlier, the little things that you do or don't do can really put you in harm's way and suddenly turn you into a victim, which could then take your credit portfolio and disintegrate it and take every other portfolio with it.
Right.
So some thoughts. First, if you're going to go to a shopping site, make sure it's secure.
And that's the HTTPS.
HTTPS, and also the magic little lock
Right.
that you see. You click on the lock, it'll show you the digital certificate, whether or not it's a trustworthy site. Some sites that are really trustworthy still have sort of strange digital certificates, so that shouldn't scare you to death. But the second thing is, oftentimes people go to a site and misspell the name of the retailer.
Right.
And there are folks out there who actually
They count on that.
They do. They
count on us being bad spellers.
Right.
And then it's a fake site.
Totally.
And you're about to plug in all this stuff and you think it's Target.com and it's Turgid or something.
Or, Neiman Marcus becomes Neeman, stuff like that.
I would never make that mistake, by the way.
So it's very important to be accurate in the way you spell. And then you can start to get a feel from a site that something's not right when it says, we need your Social Security number, but you're not applying for a credit card. Or give us your email password.
Yes.
Or they might ask for a bank account information.
Oh, here it is. Here's the keys to my house.
That's it.
Here's my safe deposit box. I mean, you really could be handing over so much.
Well, and the analogy in social networking is the people who can't control themselves from having to tell everybody where they're going on vacation and how long they're going to be gone. There was a site that was created called pleaserobme.com because,
I love it.
People were saying, here, it's like the key is in the car, the door is unlocked. Take it.
Can I veer off for 1 second? Because my boss just posted something on our chat. By the way, if you want to go to MoneyWatch.com, we have a live chat rocking here. So Marianne wants to know, what is the right balance between protecting yourself but not being paranoid? Like, she's kind of like, well, that does seem hard, no?
No, it is. And I think, a touch of paranoia may not be such a bad thing. But what you always have to do is sort of take the position in whatever you do. This is my asset, and how much information... For instance, if somebody walked in and said to you, give me your Social Security card, and they looked you in the eye, you'd say, are you nuts?
Right.
Or someone would say, hand me your credit card, let me just use it for a little bit and give it back to you. The answer is no. It was a wonderful commercial a couple of years ago, and I think it was from the U.S. Postal Inspection Service, where a woman was sitting in a bus, a nicely dressed man in a suit and an overcoat with a briefcase sat down next to her, looked very elegant, silver hair, and started talking to her about, I represent someone from a foreign nation. We've selected you. You are you're the person who we can send money to, but we need you to do these things. Or guess what? You just won a lottery. They had different commercials. And the whole theme of it was, if someone sat down next to you and looked you in the eye and told you this, you wouldn't buy it.
No.
So why is it that someone says this to you online and suddenly it becomes the gospel? So the other thing is, when you're dealing with these sites, and this is the great line between paranoia and security, is most consumers opt for convenience versus security.
Right.
And the reality is that you always have to think about, why does somebody want this information? What is it really going to do for me? How do I win by giving this information? And are there not better alternatives for me to get what I want without basically giving my information treasure trove away?
Now, if someone just walked into a podcast and you hadn't given them permission, or you didn't really know when they were coming, would you let them sit down and just start talking to you? Hi, Jack.
I have both of your Social Security numbers.
Exactly.
So you better let me start
Jack
talking.
Otter is in the house. Turn off your cell phone so we don't do
sorry
that
about
thing.
that, yeah.
Jack's been taking care of his son, who actually partied like a rock star last night for his birthday and now is sick. Interesting. What kind of party was that, man? How old is this kid?
He turned 4 yesterday.
Oh, so you were rocking it.
He lay down on the seat while the rest of the people ate dinner. He did not touch his cupcakes.
Oh.
Mommy had to open his presents for him, and he went straight to bed. So
You know what?
we're going to do a
This is
reprise
very-
in a couple days.
All right, very good. Very good. Well, we're talking identity theft here.
I know
We're
it.
very exciting here. And Adam and I were just talking about the holidays and how this is a time when people just sort of seem to be very open with, bringing out their credit cards, talking to people on the phone. And also, I think to some extent, they're just in a rush. They can't think about these things. So what are the other things during the holidays, especially, that you should be kind of careful about?
Well, a lot of folks, by the way, great tie. A lot of folks get taken over by acquisition ecstasy during the holiday season.
Oh, I like that. Acquisition ecstasy. I took some of that in my junior year, I think.
Yeah, I understand it's where it's suddenly the 52-inch flat screen TV suddenly becomes the obsession of the month.
Oh, very nice.
But the problem is that oftentimes acquisition ecstasy can cloud judgment. And a lot of people during the holiday season are counting on the fact that you're going to be A, in the midst of acquisition ecstasy, and B, completely distracted because you're looking at everything under the sun to figure out, what am I going to get? Time pressure is moving, you're in a sweat, and you start doing things quickly. Sometimes you overpay, but what's worse is you give people information you shouldn't. So if you want to really take it from the beginning, A, don't ever shop online unless and until you have every possible security software device that you can get on your computer, and not only get the firewalls as well as the anti-malware security as well as the normal security, but update it often. Because having security software that's not updated is like having a gym membership but not showing up. Looks good, sounds good, does nothing.
Is there anything that people should know about that? I mean, for instance, what brand to get? How do you update software? Do you go to their website and upload updates, patches? How does that work?
Well, first of all, there are sites that can recommend stuff, and I always try to stay away from recommending stuff per se. But there are some that will automatically update. I mean, I have one. My computer talks to me every day. Says your software has been updated, and usually comes at the moment I'm on a phone call, and it scares me half to death. And I can't figure out who's talking to me, or in the middle of the night. The second thing is that you can also go to their sites and update as well, and check for the most recent update.
Automatic
a lot of the browsers
sounds better.
have those. Yeah, automatic.
Yeah,
is much
automatic's
better.
cool.
And it should be thorough. And especially the one thing you want is the anti-keystroke logging software.
Hey, hold on a second. Anti-keystroke logging software. Okay.
They call it malware. They call it that. And what that means is that if you click on something you shouldn't, and oftentimes it can be just a picture that was sent by someone you thought was a friend.
Or thought had a good sense of humor.
That's true. It will contain malicious code. This code will then crawl into your computer and turn your computer into a transmitter, which means that every time you go to your bank or your credit union or your stockbroker and you enter in an account number as well as put in your password, somebody in the Ukraine or someplace close thereto suddenly has all your information. So it's very, very important to make sure your computer is protected as possible. The second thing is, we know that American Express always says don't leave home without it, but the corollary to that is don't leave home unless you've left a bunch of your credit cards and debit cards home. If you go out, don't take more than one ATM or debit card.
Right, you don't need to have your entire life with you all the time.
No, you don't. Right. And don't take 48 credit cards with you because first
of all...
I don't
have 48 credit cards, for God's sakes. Okay, sorry, just a moment of sanity there.
There you go.
Okay.
But what you need to do is first you should have them in reserve, because if your credit card or debit card gets lost or stolen, you immediately have an alternative as opposed to having to wait a few days to get it replaced. Secondly, there's a lot less damage control you have to do, because you only have to call a couple numbers and solve the problem. And the third thing is it might actually help you restrain yourself. The other thing critically important during this time of the year is, and any time of the year, but in particular now, is spend a few minutes a day, every day, online looking at your bank account, your credit card account, just to make absolutely sure that every transaction you see is really your transaction. And it has this other therapeutic effect of bringing you face to face with what you're spending,
your
where
reality,
you're spending it, the reality check, and how close you're coming to the line, either your credit limit or zero in the account that happens to be attached to that debit card.
Adam, this seems like a little bit of a buzzkill for my acquisition ecstasy.
Yeah, I know.
I've got a good question here from Nicole in California on that note about, bringing your whole life with you. She and her family, she believes could be victims of identity theft. Last week, my husband's truck was broken into next to our house. His wallet was one of the things taken from the cab of the truck. We've already taken care of all the credit cards, but in his wallet was his
Social Security number.
bingo card with mine and my daughter's written on the backside. I've been worried about identity theft since that day. What should Nicole do? And by the way, her husband, knucklehead, you don't put your Social Security card with your stuff. You just don't do that, right?
No.
Ever.
Ever.
I don't even know where my real Social Security card is. It must be like in my mother's safe deposit box. I don't even know where it is.
I've actually never seen mine. There were rumors of it. It could be a hologram, but
A hologram. Yours was on the original printing press.
that's very
Came
true.
right out.
It was actually part of the Gutenberg Bible.
It
and
was
they
no,
did
you know what?
that.
It was actually part of the. It was the little afterthought from the Ten Commandments. It was chiseled.
It was the 11th commandment.
Exactly.
Actually. It was
Are
with
you
a number.
sure you're using the right number?
That's
Exactly.
entirely true. I'm actually using your number. I actually had one case at Identity Theft Number 1 where a fella said, you know, I don't know if I really want to do anything about this. I mean, the guy that stole my identity has better credit than me.
I love that.
But
So what do you do? I mean, first of all, to know you never have your Social Security number written down anywhere in your wallet. What about like if you do need your kids' Social Security numbers with you, or do you ever
really
need that?
Not necessarily. If you do, you'll always say, look, let me get back to you with that, or I'll call you, I'll give you the information. Once you confirm that they are who they should be. I mean, it was as a sort of an offshoot, crazy corner case of this. Puerto Rico has changed its entire birth certificate system because there were so many thefts of identities, resulting from the fact that in Puerto Rico, almost everywhere you went, almost every activity you were involved in wanted not a presentation of your birth certificate, but a submission of your birth certificate, including a lot of children's sports leagues.
Yes, that's
And-
necessary.
Well, of course, there was the whole issue with the Little League about whether or not, people are the age they say they
that's
are.
right.
28-year-olds in Little League.
Right.
Yeah.
That's why Mariano Rivera's actually got his ARP card, but he's still pitching for the Yankees.
There you go. There you go. But so anyway, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, to help these people, okay, now they know the Social Security card is in someone's hands who could be an identity thief. What should they do?
Okay. Step number 1 is to understand that once someone has your Social Security number, they have an option on your life. And the question is not if, but when
Oh, my
they're going
God.
to actually call it in.
Wow.
I'm sorry to be Dr. Death.
You really are.
And the truth is, that's why you brought me in early before the holidays, because you want to have cheery shows during the holiday
Right.
season. First, they should immediately notify the credit reporting agencies, which I hope they did, to put a fraud alert in their file. But fraud alerts now get caught up almost like they're white noise,
oh my God.
because there are so many companies out there that are throwing fraud alerts on files until the lawsuit that happened a few months ago and the FTC actions about that kind of stuff. So the second thing is they should look into credit freezes. Most of the states in the union permit you to freeze your credit. Some of them very inexpensively, and some of them really quickly. So check with your state law. Also, each of the 3 credit reporting agencies has the capacity now to allow you to do freezes on your credit reports that you can do online, and it's not terribly expensive. Some of them, if you have a monitoring program, they will allow you to do it for an extra couple bucks a year. Other ones, they charge 10 in, 10 out. Some states regulate it that it's less expensive. But you see, this is, I guess, the message that I have to bring to everyone is, despite the representations of some out there that identity theft can be prevented, it can't be 100% prevented. So in your head, you have to think of it's a 3-stage process. 1, you have to educate yourself as much as possible so you'll learn how to mitigate your risk of exposure. 2, you have to have devices in place like credit and fraud monitoring, or practices in place where you check your accounts on a daily basis so that you can detect the issue as quickly as possible. And 3rd, you have to have a damage control program in place if you are one of the 10 to 15 million people a year who inevitably will become a victim of some form of identity theft.
Now, should I know, I'll just use me as an example because I am a knucklehead. Should I be having some sort of something tracking somebody to be watching over this stuff for me if I don't want to do it myself?
You should.
Could you do that for me?
I
Jack,
will.
could you do that for me?
Sure.
Okay.
Happy
Jack
to.
and I, as
What
well.
is your
My bad.
Social Security number?
Yeah, and your birthday.
Yeah.
And your birthday. And some credit card numbers because you have
Right.
to pay us to do it. No, you should do that. Now, interestingly enough, there are a lot of institutions out there that offer programs to their members, customers, clients, employees, and they do it free. It's a perk of having a relationship with the institution. Others charge something for it. It may well be an endorsement to an insurance policy, and they're not that terribly expensive. They could be between $15 to $45 a year, depending upon, who your insurance carrier is and what kind of policy. So step one, contact your insurance agent and say, before I go crazy, just let me know if I already have a policy that covers me as part of my policy. Or do I need an endorsement? Or go to your bank or your credit union and find out what a lot of credit unions give this to people, again, as a perk of membership. A lot of smaller banks do as well. The bigger banks have their own programs that they charge for. And then it's just really a sort of a risk-reward analysis, which is what kind of protection am I getting? Make sure you understand it. What am I paying for it? And then say, is it worth it to me to pay $150 a year to have someone else worry about this? And it may or may not be. And you can do it yourself, just like you can change your oil, just like you can fix your car, and a lot of people like to do that. So it really has to do with how much work do you want to do and how much risk do you want to take? And in the event you have a problem, would you not prefer to actually have a professional handle the problem for you? And that's just a question of what kind of program they offer. That's the damage control part. And then if it suits your needs and you feel comfortable.
So if I'm 2 months late on my expense report right now, odds are I'm the kind of guy who probably should outsource this job.
It's entirely possible that might be in your best.
Jack, I will do your expense report. Could you give me your Social Security number? Okay, let me ask a couple more questions.
And your credit card as well.
And your credit card, both. So Adrian wants to know, must I destroy my receipts when I use my debit or credit card, even though the entire credit card number doesn't appear on the receipt? Should you be ripping up your receipts all the time?
Well, I'm a great believer in if you don't need them anymore. It's one thing if you need a receipt because there may be a tax opportunity for you. And, of course, those opportunities are shrinking as we speak. However, once you're done with them, don't just throw them out. Shred them.
Yeah.
It's, again, convenience versus security, but shred them using a cross-cut shredder. Because, again, even let's assume you have a truncated number on that receipt. It's just another piece of evidence of that you were at that store, you purchased this item, here's your name. And it's just, why do you need anyone to know anything about you?
Then you don't want to share with them.
That's the point.
So last time you were here, you totally freaked me out because you started talking about that this area of growth and identity theft is around kids.
Yes.
And one of our bloggers actually wrote about this, Stacey Bradford, and talking about that your kids can absolutely be at risk. And all right, well, first of all, we know that this idea about not revealing Social Security number, but what can you do? Your kids are online more than you are. My nephew goes out and buys the tickets for the movies, and there's all this stuff that's going on. What should you do to protect against that?
Well, again, the concept of protecting against a child who's going online to do some kind of online activity is almost the equivalent of trying to figure out how to achieve world peace. Assume for the moment it's going to happen. So therefore, what are the things you need to do? Step number one is what we talked about earlier, which is make sure you have every possible piece of security software on that computer, because your child may innocently click on something that then may suddenly end up in your bank account, and then you both pay the price. So, parental controls are always important. There aren't that many, but there are some. And the second thing is that you really have to stay on top of it. You have to have the big talk with your child early. Just like the talk about the birds, the bees, and all other forms of community relationships. The fact is you need to have conversations about this, because this can be a family upheaval because of an identity theft that's caused by an innocent action on a computer. But yes, children, 400,000 children a year are victims. The folks at the Identity Theft Resource Center in San Diego, who are really pretty awesome, they came up with a proposal. Some privacy advocates freaked out. I happen to think that it's a good proposal, and that is from the day you're born till the day you're 17 years, 10 months, your name and Social Security number goes on a database, just like the Social Security death list.
Yeah.
It's on this database, and anytime anybody applies to any creditor for any credit whatsoever, they have got to run that Social Security number against that database. I think that would save billions of dollars over the years, and it would really protect a lot of young people from having SURUS. The fact is,
Jack.
Yeah,
let me just translate this. SURUS.
How do you spell that, Joe?
Is like agita.
T?
Tsuris. Is that right?
I think it's TSOURIS.
I like that.
yeah.
SURUS. I like that.
Those who are Yiddish speakers could probably spell it better, and they'll probably send you an email.
Agita, heartache, pain.
Gotcha. Okay.
You know, okay, just so you got that.
Angst,
angst, as we like to say in the old world. I think that's kind of interesting because I do think that there is a piece of this where you really have to trade some of your privacy in order to actually protect everything in the long run. I really believe that. I think that that's a problem. I know
Airport scanners.
It's kind of a bummer, but guys, if you're going to go crazy looking at something, you could probably look at it home. Go crazy. Hey, I've got a question here from Jessie, who is a victim of identity theft. She received communication last Tuesday from a banker that a suspicious voice altered my address and ordered new debit cards under my name.
Wow.
That's crazy. I received a link to your advice on identity theft via BNet. I would like to inquire about what suggestions you may have regarding my situation. Here's what I've done. Close the account, retain the address and number of suspected criminal, police report, printed credit report, establish new account with different institution. Were the steps that I took wise? Is there anything else I should consider? How long does it take for credit inquiries to appear on my credit report?
Oh, they can appear pretty quickly. Certainly, well, depending upon when the report is pulled and when in the cycle it's pulled, it may be sooner rather than later. But
we're talking weeks?
It could be weeks or less.
Okay.
But that's also why she should be looking at her bank accounts and credit card accounts online every day to see if there's any other suspicious activity. My question is, if a suspicious voice tried to get this kind of information from the bank, it's possible somehow they also have her Social Security number.
Oy.
And if they do, is a Y. And anyway, if they do, then it's again critical to make sure that the fraud alerts are on the file, which I suspect they might be, because she said. And the second thing is she should definitely look into a credit freeze, and she should be extremely alert in terms of activity on any of her accounts.
This is interesting. It sort of begs a larger question I just got via Twitter, which is how much of a responsibility do we have in the government's eye for keeping our identity safe? In other words, is the government really expecting this to be us? Do they want to take a role in this process or not?
Well, let's put it this way. The famous line, I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
Yeah, exactly.
Always be wary of that. The same thing is government can only go so far. The truth is that let me set this in context so I can really ruin your holidays.
Oh, great.
And that is, we're in the eye of a perfect storm right now. First, you have millions of people out of work, many of whom know the information that's collected, stored, and disseminated by the companies that just laid them off. Many of them know how to actually access that information. So that's scary part number one. Scary part number two is the sophistication level of hackers and identity thieves has grown dramatically over the years to the point where after some recent large breaches, the law enforcement said off the record, the bad guys are probably 5 years ahead of the good guys. Now, the fight against identity theft has really taken place more at the state level than the federal level because we could, as we talked earlier, be at the 12th of Tisha B'Av, which again is a fictitious date.
You know what that is?
That's
the sign, the Megan's sign that we have to stop.
Oh.
Isn't that terrible?
Bummer.
You just want to keep talking, don't you?
I do.
I love it. Wind him up. He keeps talking.
Can I ask a question that has a one-word answer, and that is simply online. I've read that you are safer with a Mac than a PC because there are fewer people hacking it. Do you have any theory on that?
That is the theory.
And then therein lies the theory.
But that's a theory, but the problem is that sophistication levels are rising to the point where...
I just don't want anyone hacking into my open table file to see how much I eat out. That's my biggest concern. Adam...
And I love your restaurants, by the way.
They're fabulous, right? Adam Levin, the former director of the New Jersey Division of Consumer Affairs, the current... what is your title at Credit.com? CEO or president or something?
No, chairman.
Chairman of Credit.com.
They won't let me operate anything.
Very nice. Also, check out this website, which is Identity Theft 911, which is also Adam's baby, which is pretty cool stuff. I think it's scary. I think this whole thing is scary. And we're going to have you back because this is really awesome information. So if anyone wants more information, go on to credit.com or Identity Theft 911. Or here at MoneyWatch.com, we have all of our very savvy bloggers talking about this constantly. Or just call Jack. He'll give you his social security number and his son's.
Be happy to. Sure. Yeah.
And Joe will give you her credit card.
Indeed. I'll be happy to do it. So, Adam, thank you so much for joining us. It was great.
Thank
really
you for
great to
inviting
have
me.
you. Jack, thank you for coming for half of this.
Anytime.
You are so dedicated that your
true.
poor son is sick, and you left him at home alone. I'm sorry. He's 4
And
years old. Is he okay?
On the way, yeah, he's definitely much better. On the way out of the subway, I took out a kid who was about 4 years old because I was rushing here so fast. So there was a little irony to that. His mommy was not happy, but I didn't stick around.
You know what? You are a very dedicated employee. You watching, everybody? I am Jill Schlesinger. He is
Jack Otter.
And you've been watching Ask the Experts. Tune in next week where God knows what Megan has planned for us, but it will be fun. Shoot us an email, asktheexperts@moneywatch.com. We'll see you next week.
Got your money.